The Cleveland Browns have spent years searching for stability at quarterback, watching one promising option after another fall short of expectations. Each time, the franchise hoped the next name under center would be the savior, only for disappointment to follow. But this year feels different because Andrew Berry has gone all in on Shadur Sanders. From the start, Berry's vision was clear. He didn't see Sanders as just another developmental player. He saw him as the quarterback who could change the trajectory of the Browns. That conviction has influenced every decision Cleveland has made since the draft, and now the pressure it creates is being felt across the entire organization, especially by head coach Kevin Stefanski. When the draft began, the Browns had several options in play. Dillon Gabriel was considered a safer choice, a player who could fit into the system without major risk. Kenny Pickett was already on the roster and viewed as a potential bridge option, but none of that mattered to Berry. His eyes were locked on Sanders. Reports later revealed Berry pushed hard to take Shadur as early as the second round, and when the team passed, he grew restless. By the time the fifth round arrived, Berry made his move. He convinced owner Jimmy Haslam that Sanders was the right choice, that this was the player they couldn't afford to let slip through their hands. What set Sanders apart wasn't just his stats or his highlight reels. Berry sold the pick on Shadur's intangibles, his composure, his maturity, his ability to handle media attention, and his potential to be the face of the franchise. For a city like Cleveland, desperate for both identity and stability, Sanders offered something bigger than numbers. When the selection was made official, the energy shifted immediately. The Browns quickly backed up the move by trading Kenny Pickett, a decision that cleared the path for Sanders and showed the world he wasn't just here to sit quietly in the background. He was going to compete, and the organization was setting him up to succeed. Sanders' first preseason game wasn't perfect, but it was enough to remind everyone why Berry fought for him. He showed poise, made plays, and looked like he belonged. After the game, Berry made a point to approach him directly, offering words of encouragement that felt far more symbolic than casual. Really, really good. Proud of you. Cool. Really, really nice job. That moment was a public endorsement, a way of showing the locker room and the fans that this was Berry's guy. But when Sanders later struggled behind a shaky offensive line, Berry didn't shrug it off or look for excuses. Instead, he made a bold move that shook the organization. He replaced the entire offensive line unit that had been playing with Sanders. This wasn't about small tweaks. It was about accountability and making a statement that the Browns weren't going to let their young quarterback fail because of poor protection. The message was clear. They would build the environment he needed no matter what. Media voices quickly began to echo Berry's faith. Mary Kay Cabot highlighted that Sanders was the main reason the Browns remained relevant in national conversations despite the team's struggles. She pointed out that without him, Cleveland would have slipped into irrelevance. His presence, his name, and his performances kept the Browns in the spotlight. She emphasized that Sanders wasn't just a famous last name, but a quarterback with real talent and room for growth. To her, the risk was worth it because the value he brought far outweighed the downside. Even if Sanders didn't become the star many hoped for, the Browns could always pivot later. But for now, giving him the chance to grow was a gamble they had to take. What makes this situation even more interesting is the change in tone from Kevin Stefanski. Early on, Stefanski wasn't sold on Sanders. He was skeptical, downplayed his chances, and even made public criticisms that many thought were unfair. It felt like he was managing expectations or leaning too heavily on veterans. But after Pickett was traded and Berry doubled down, Stefanski's message changed. He publicly committed to supporting Sanders' development, saying he wasn't worried about outside noise and that he was dedicated to getting all of the team's rookies better. It was a significant shift, and it reflected the reality that the organization's direction had already been set. Stefanski could either get on board or risk being left behind. This shift hasn't gone unnoticed. Former NFL receiver TJ Houshmandzadeh made it clear that Stefanski is now under real pressure. With Berry's fingerprints all over this decision, Stefanski can no longer afford to sideline Sanders or limit his opportunities. If he does, he risks backlash from both fans and ownership, and that could put his job in jeopardy. The spotlight is too bright and the expectations too high. When a general manager goes all in on a player, everyone around him is expected to fall in line. The larger picture is about more than one preseason or one player. The Browns are in a critical moment for their quarterback future. Joe Flacco is nearing the end of his career. Kenny Pickett is gone. Dillon Gabriel faces questions about his size and ceiling. The team needs a clear direction, and Sanders provides it. He's young, talented, and carries the pedigree and poise needed to handle the spotlight. His game still needs refinement, and he will make mistakes along the way, but the upside is too significant to ignore. The coming months will decide how this gamble plays out. Stefanski has the challenge of developing Sanders while still competing in a brutal division. Sanders must show he can live up to the hype, not just in flashes, but with consistent performance. For the Browns, this is about more than wins and losses. It's about identity. Barry hasn't just drafted a quarterback, he's reshaped the roster and the narrative around the team. He's made Sanders the centerpiece of a new era, and now the rest of the organization has no choice but to follow. What was once a situation clouded in doubt has become a bold experiment with massive stakes. Sanders is no longer just another quarterback prospect. He's the face of a new chapter, the hope for a franchise that has too often lacked stability. Barry's faith has reshaped the Browns, from roster moves to public perception, and Stefanski now has to prove he can maximize that vision. If he succeeds, Cleveland may finally have the quarterback it's been chasing for decades. If he fails, the consequences will be swift. The future of the Browns now rests on whether Andrew Barry's gamble pays off. Shadur Sanders carries the weight of a city's hopes and the trust of a general manager who refused to back down. It is a risk, no doubt, but it is also a chance at something the Browns haven't had in years: belief. And in Cleveland, that belief might be exactly what they need.